Well, our friend Stephanie Skinner's back tonight with an announcement,
Yes.
and we'll let you know shortly after the other announcements. The big drawing meeting is tomorrow night. We will be drawing a bunch of stuff, a bunch of winners. Call it door prizes, if you will. And the drawing will be around 8:30 at the regular meeting. At Elise's, the meeting starts at 6 o'clock. You do have to be present to win. You'll get your tickets there at the meeting. And we got a whole bunch of stuff. We got even more stuff this weekend through the generosity of the folks at the gun show,
Yes.
several of them. And let's see, you get a ticket for each time you've called the show since we started, and each meeting you've made since we started, including tonight and tomorrow night, tomorrow's meeting. So everybody come out tomorrow night, 6:30, Elise's. And it's not just the drawing. There's a lot of stuff we got to cover tomorrow. And let's see, we've got Vermilion Parish Concerned Citizens are meeting August 3rd, a Thursday, 6 to 8:30 p.m. at the Vermilion Parish Public Library in Abbeville, 405 East St. Victor Street. Next gun show is Labor Day weekend, 1st and 2nd September at Lake Charles at the Civic Center on the lake, 9 to 5 Saturday and 9 to 4 on Sunday. Lake Charles Gun Show.
Make a day of it.
And let's see, what else do we got going?
It's the 30th.
Yeah, now we covered that. Concerned Citizens, Vermilion Parish, our meeting. And then, let's see, what else did we have? Oh, yeah!
Me.
Stephanie's got an announcement of a new contest she's sponsoring for her. She's calling it her Facebook contest for the younger generation.
Yes.
The purpose is to whisper against drones. Hit it,
Yes.
Steph.
Hello, Acadiana. Thanks so much for having me. I would like to thank all of you. I've started a Facebook page, and I'm extremely blessed to have started this page. And I've come in contact with a lot of old friends, and I thank you for accepting my friend requests, and I've missed you all. And all the kids out there, I enjoy having you on my page because we love you, and your rights are being stolen. I want to thank you all, my friends, kids, and please spread the word about my page because we can gather together in numbers and we can march. And we can march together and whisper against these things because Department of Homeland Security is putting 30,000 of these in our skies. So it's time. It's really time because you kids deserve butterflies. You deserve free skies. I mean, this is not necessary. It's just, it's time. It's time, Acadiana. Also, I want to thank everybody that I met at the gun show this weekend. I want to thank everyone for their donations and their time and all the good stuff that we're going to give away for our Whisper Against Drones March. Also, I want to thank Angela for our artwork. We have 2 more flyers. Acadiana, please come to the meeting tomorrow night, and you're welcome to them. We have this one. It is called Divide.
Here you go.
And we have this one. It's called The Cakewalk. So we look forward to seeing you there. I can't wait. We're going to have such a good time, and everyone's going to have fun at this meeting. We're going to talk about important issues. Our call-in poster will be displayed for when we start that little contest Mr. Parker does. But on to Whisper Against Drones. I want to talk to public servants. I want to talk to all age groups. There's censorship in this country, and you can't talk about your children's rights, or you could lose your job. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is. But it's okay. I want Acadiana to know, use me no matter what age you are. If you're a public school teacher, if you are a policeman, if you are a government worker, I know you don't like what's going on in this country. I know you don't want your children to have to grow up with drones, these dangerous drones flying over their heads, and the TSA and all these things that we're up against. So use me. Do not put a return address. Just mail it to my house, and you don't have to sign a name. Use a fake name. It's time we do this for the children in Acadiana. It really is, because our voices do mean something, and we need to speak. So I want everyone to know, no matter what type of job you have, you can use me. I'm here. Send me your little essay. Send it to me, and I'm going to upload a YouTube of me at the post office mailing these out. So your voice will be heard. So do not be afraid. Be afraid of doing nothing, Acadiana, because this is wrong. Well, I thank you for your time. I thank you to all my new friends on Facebook. Pray for me because I'm learning. It's really quite interesting. So I love you, Acadiana. I love all the kids. I love you. And I look forward to meeting everybody as we interlock arms and we march against this peacefully. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Parker, and he's going to talk to you about the prizes. And God bless you all.
Thanks, Stephanie. This is Stephanie's Facebook contest for the younger generation, which it's actually the two generations younger than me, her generation and the ones younger than her. This will be, right now, up to 40. Folks up to 40 years old can participate, and that's just to have a cutoff of some sort. It's not set in stone, but what you have to do is handwrite a 3-paragraph essay dealing with the subject of drones in our skies. Stephanie wants you to include a drawn picture or a printed picture off the internet of a drone, and then send your entries to Drone Contest 108 Rue Conge, C-O-N-G-E, Lafayette 70508. And the entries will be placed in a box, and we will draw names. They will be not subject to content, other than they will need to be respectful and without any obscenity, but we're not going to take off for punctuation or anything. We're not even going to concern ourselves with that at this point. Stephanie's going to send copies of all of the entries to all of our congressmen, senators, and our governor. And let's see, the winner will be announced on the show here September 5th, and the prizes can be claimed the following meeting at Elise's the next night. And some of the prizes, and there's more to be announced, $2 silver. Real ones. Hear that? Real ones. One of them is a 1923 and a 1921. The other one is a Gibraltar 1/20th ounce gold coin. Real gold. And then the booby prize, well, will be a $100 Federal Reserve note. That's just some of the prizes. There's some more down here. A pair of FRS GMRS Motorola walkie-talkies. A remote-controlled car. A Shelby Ford remote-control, radio-control car. And one of the posters, one of the posters that, this is from the guy.
Brett's Murals.
From who?
Brett's Murals.
Okay. Brett's Murals. He's out of where again?
Utah.
Out of Utah. He gave Stephanie several of his works of art for her to use as she saw fit. We thought that was darn nice of him. But those are tentatively some of the prizes that Stephanie's going to be giving away in the drone contest, the drone essay contest. Again, the drawings will be random, but they do have to be respectful. A 3-paragraph essay after doing some research on drones, you ought to do some research on the online about drones, and then send the entries to drones at 108 Rue Conge, C-O-N-G-E, Lafayette, 70508. Okay.
Other states, people from other states can enter.
Yeah, anybody in other states, for those listening online or on Facebook, other folks can enter. Your entry from other states will be sent to your governor and to your congressmen and senators. That's why if you don't want your name to be known, then don't put it on there, okay? And we'll make arrangements. If you can't make the meeting the following night, we'll make arrangements to get your prizes to you.
Okay, tell older people that they can enter, but they're not going to win.
Yeah, older folks, over 40, you can enter, but you're not going to win anything. This is for the young folks to encourage them to participate. Okay. Any questions, holler or talk to us tomorrow night at the meeting at Elise's at 6:30. Like I say, we'll be drawing, have the big door prize drawing at 8:30 tomorrow night. You do have to be present to win at Elise's tomorrow night. It's going to be a hoot, aside from the stuff we're going to be talking about. Okay. Why are we doing all this? Let's read from Judge Napolitano real quick. The rule of law. This is the law right here. Okay? May not be perfect. Constitution of the United States. And behind that, the Bill of Rights and the other amendments to the Constitution, which the Bill of Rights are separate. Those were done separately from the Constitution, and they are not to be changed. The Rule of Law by Andrew Napolitano. The greatest distinguishing factor between countries in which there is some freedom and those where authoritarian governments manage personal behavior is the rule of law. The idea that the very laws that the government is charged with enforcing could restrain the government itself is uniquely Western and was accepted with near unanimity at the time of the creation of the American Republic. Republic, not democracy. Without that concept underlying the exercise of governmental power, there is little hope for freedom. The rule of law is a three-legged stool on which freedom sits. The first leg requires all laws be enacted in advance of the behavior they seek to regulate and be crafted and promulgated in public by a legitimate authority. The goal of all laws must be the preservation of individual freedom. A law is not legitimate if it is written by an evil genius in secret, or if it punishes behavior that was lawful when the behavior took place, or if its goal is to solidify the strength of those in power. It's also not legitimate if it is written by the president instead of Congress. The second leg is that no one is above the law and no one is beneath it. Thus, the law's restraints on force and fraud need to restrain everyone equally, and the law's protection against force and fraud must protect everyone equally. This leg removes from the discretion of those who enforce the law the ability to enforce it or to afford its protections selectively. This principle also requires that the law enforcers enforce the law against themselves. Of course, this was not always the case. In 1628, the British Parliament spent days debating the question, is the king above the rule of law, or is the rule of law above the king? Thankfully, the king lost, but only by 10 votes out of several hundred cast in the English Parliament. The third leg of the rule of law requires that the structures that promulgate, enforce, and interpret law be so fundamental. Congress writes the laws, the president enforces the laws, the courts interpret the laws. They're so fundamental that they cannot be changed retroactively or overnight by the folks who administer them. Stated differently, this leg mandates that only a broad consensus can change the goals or values of structures used to implement the laws. They cannot be changed by atrophy or neglect or crisis. The values in America are set forth in the Declaration of Independence, and the governmental structures in America are set forth in the Constitution. The former, that our rights are unalienable and come from our Creator, not from the government, is not merely a recitation of Thomas Jefferson's musings. The Declaration is the articulation of our values then and now, and it too is the law of the land. The Constitution was written largely by James Madison to define and to limit the federal government, and it was quickly amended by adding the Bill of Rights so as to be sure that natural rights would be respected by the government. This tension between the power of the majority at the ballot box or in Congress and the rights of the minority, whether a discrete class of persons or a minority of one, is known as the Madisonian dilemma. Stated differently, the Constitution provides for protection against the tyranny of the majority. And to put it bluntly and simply, like we've been stating for years, in a democracy of two wolves and one sheep, the sheep being the minority then, right? Guess who gets voted to be lunch? Well, in a republic, the sheep has a Bill of Rights. In a republic, the sheep has Article 2 of the Bill of Rights, in particular, to decide that I'm not going to become lunch. Remember what we said last week about the Kaiser of Germany asking about the invasion of Switzerland with his 1 million men against the 500,000 Swiss? What did the Swiss militiaman say? We just shoot twice and go home. Well, a democracy of two wolves and one sheep, the sheep, if it's a republic, the sheep shoots twice and goes home. In our system, the power to resolve the dilemma is reposed into the hands of the judiciary and those who have that power to resolve it without regard to popularity or politics. Their oath is to the Constitution. They have the final say on what the laws mean. If they follow the rule of law, they will invalidate that which the government has done and which is properly challenged before them and which is not authorized by the Constitution. Their very purpose is to be anti-democratic, lest the popular majority takes whatever lives, liberties, or property it covets. In return for life tenure, we expect judicial modesty and we demand constitutional fidelity, not political compromise. In our era, the violations of the rule of law have become more troublesome when the government breaks its own laws. Prosecute Roger Clemens for lying to Congress. What about all the lies Congress tells? Prosecute John Edwards for cheating. What about all the cheating in Congress when it enacts laws it has not read? Bring the troops home from the Middle East. What about all the innocents killed secretly by the president using CIA drones? Can't find a way to justify Obamacare under the Constitution? Why not call it what its proponents insisted it is not? A tax. We live in perilous times. The president acts above the rule of law and fights his own wars. Congress acts below the rule of law by letting the president do whatever he can get away with. And this summer, the Supreme Court rewrote the rule of law. What do we do about it? It's up to you. You like it like that? Fine. Let's repeal the Constitution. Or let's you repeal the Constitution. Those of us sheep who believe in the Republic, well, even if you're the majority, we're going to have something to say about it. And do, where necessary. The men the American people admire most extravagantly are the most daring liars. The men they detest most violently are those who try to tell them the truth. H.L. Mencken. And boy, is that ever going on now in this presidential campaign. Woof. I predict that this campaign, well, it's deja vu, literally. It is 12 years ago again. The 2000 campaign really got cranked up with this kind of stuff that's going on now. The monkey shines with the voting rules, the lies, the innuendo, etc. So watch out, folks. This is going to be a repeat. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, Tom, you was talking about that tyranny of majority as such a, could that be tyranny of authority?
Well, yeah, but see, they're always doing these polls, and polls are a real booger.
Thank you.
Because, for one thing, it doesn't matter what the majority thinks about certain issues. It matters not.
Right.
The only time these polls have any weight of authority is when they're talking about how people feel about one candidate or the other. Excuse me, about who might get elected. And of course, this is too early in the season for anybody to take that stuff seriously anyway. But you're correct that it's a tyranny of authority now because the majority has allowed it to happen.
Exactly. Thank you.
They have Stephanie is constantly using the mirror analogy that they should look in the mirror to see where the problem lies.
That's me and anyone else. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Are you doing enough? Are you doing anything? Most people are not doing anything. Oh, I'm going to vote. I don't count that as doing anything. Voting, you're supporting an illegal system for one thing. The Constitution is rampant with situations where the federal government has violated its own rule of law, and primary amongst them is the voting.
Thank you.
The federales get involved in the voting at even the local levels here. Okay, the Lafayette Parish, who was it? Somebody was under some kind of federal mandate that had nothing to do with the constitutional authority of the federal government. And it just, they have no authority whatsoever in election situation in the states. And when they do, they abuse it. They don't do what they should do. So why are you even bothering to vote? It doesn't mean anything now, and especially look who Romney's handlers just told him to appoint as his running mate.
Yeah, thank you, Don. Let me get off. I
All right,
haven't
Ted.
had a chance to call in here lately. This is Ted, and
Yeah,
I just
Ted.
figured I would
Well, thanks.
call in and see about that authority.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Appreciate it. Yep, Ted is right. What they're doing, they're basically abusing their authority at every level of government. I mean, when you like we're hearing lately, we're hearing about traffic stops on the highway with armored cars. The Gestapo are now resorting to using their armored vehicles for traffic stops. What's wrong with his picture? I mean, it's getting beyond the point of being bizarre. It's inmates in asylum situation. The inmates are running the asylum. And the guys in charge are either crazy, satanic, they're either lunatics, satanic, or blathering idiots. Take your choice. Evil. That's the satanic part. So we can be nice and call them evil, but it goes all the way to the top. Blame it on who it should be blamed on. You know, by the way, for those that don't believe in Satan, that's the biggest lie that he has sold the people of the earth on, that he does not exist. He's the great deceiver, right? He's the great. This was his job. Okay, that's the task he took upon himself, to deceive God's people. Ooh. Okay. Let's see. Where were we? Here's an interesting quote from history that shows you how things have changed in this country. This is from 1892. If the study of the Bible is to be excluded from all state schools, if the inculcation of the principles of Christianity is to have no place in the daily program, if the worship of God is to form no part of the general exercises of these public elementary schools, then the good of the state would be better served by restoring all schools to church control. And that was the National Education Association in 1892. Boy, have they been perverted, infiltrated, and taken control thereof. Yeah, well, let's see. We got, there's just all kinds of juicy stuff going on that, that neo-Nazi alleged that shot up the Sikh temple in Missouri. Do you know who supports these groups, like the one he belongs to? Maybe not his specifically, but in all likelihood, yes. The FBI, undercover FBI agents. They've got the goods on them. Not that group specifically that we know of yet, and if we ever will know. A lot of these groups would not exist without the FBI. FBI Nazi bikers bust FBI Nazi group. Kirk Nemo on Infowars.com, July 31st. If the case of white supremacist Hal Turner taught us anything, it's that the government manufactures Nazis and racists from whole cloth and then uses them to push hysterical domestic terrorist propaganda and self-aggrandizement. During Turner's trial, he was a National Socialist intelligence asset, came out, working for the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. His code name was Valhalla, and he received thousands of dollars from the FBI to report on such groups as the Aryan Nations, the National Alliance, and even a member of the Blue-Eyed Devil skinhead punk band, according to the record. Even punk bands, which is what this guy was part of, the one that supposedly shot up the Sikh temple. The FBI has run racist and white supremacist groups since the 60s. Under COINTELPRO, the FBI subsidized, armed, directed, and protected the Ku Klux Klan and other right-wing groups. In fact, that guy that used to be on AOC at the same time we got started way back, we have some sneaking suspicions that he was one of their boys too, all along. What was his name? Daryl Flynn? Brian Glick writes, racist groups were used to create a strategy of tension by attacking groups on the so-called left, including anti-war Chicano and Puerto Rican activists and nationalists. More recently, in 2007, the FBI organized a neo-Nazi march in Orlando, Florida. Oh, they even organized their own marches. Yeah, well, the FBI's informant was one of the most visible individuals in the National Socialist movement, according to Andy Rosenkrantz, State Regional Director for the Anti-Defamation League. Generally, the FBI and the Joint Terrorism Task Force in Florida does an excellent job, but the FBI has also infiltrated a number of supposed Muslim terrorist groups and has wheedled, cajoled, and otherwise manipulated patsies into agreeing to commit terrorist attacks. We've told you about those. When was that? It was almost a year ago now that Judge Napolitano had the goods on them by numbers. 21 up to that point, 21 alleged interdicted terrorist attacks stopped by the FBI, they bragged about in congressional hearings, etc. Congratulated the head of the FBI, when in reality 18 of those were actually fomented, started, begun, supported, or otherwise would not have happened had the FBI not been helping them, FBI informants. And we told you about this before the judge did. And additionally, of the 3 remaining attacks at that time, or incidents, those 3 were all stopped by individuals, not FBI people. Private citizens stopped them, like the shoe bomber on the airline trying to light his foot on fire. There was something inside and couldn't light the fuse. So, I mean, that's kind of stuff. Number of government informants and agents provocateurs has grown exponentially since the 70s, when the FBI claimed it shut down COINTELPRO. Yeah, they just shut down one name and name it something else. Move it to another city or put somebody else in charge with a new name. Oh, it's no longer what we've been criticized for. The New York Daily News recently reported the FBI's latest terrorist creation, the 1st SS Cavalry Brigade Motorcycle Division. Say that several times out loud. Whew. Founded in 2007 to recruit neo-Nazi bikers for the Aryan Nations, a white supremacist terrorist organization, according to Anthony Bartkowitz, with I guess he's with the New York Daily News. One member offered a $1,000 reward for the shooting of a black man. Others stockpiled explosives to be used in terror attacks on U.S. targets, writes Bartkowitz. But the biker gang was founded by undercover law enforcement agents in Florida, and eventually 20 people were arrested for a range of offenses, from dealing drugs to possessing illegal weapons and plotting murders, the Orlando Sentinel reported. This has all been in the media, folks. It's been in the conventional media. Where are the other clowns, the ones that are supposed to be talking about this stuff? Oh, we can't, oh no, we can't touch that. Oh no, that'll make the FBI look bad. Or not make them look good, anyway. In May, when the FBI took down a group of mentally challenged white supremacists belonging to the American Front, a group on the edge of extinction in the early 2000s, but resuscitated on the internet. The FBI claimed the group was planning to kill Jews and minorities in the inevitable race war, according to an affidavit obtained by the Orlando Sentinel. The Sentinel reports that the group also looked to manufacture ricin, weapon of mass destruction. CBS Tampa reported. So, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, come on, folks. Let's use some sense with this stuff. What was going on with the guy that shot up the Sikh temple? Okay, I wouldn't want to make a Sikh mad. By the way, they're not Muslims. They don't like Muslims. They've been mistaken for Muslims by a lot of nincompoops out there. But a Sikh is not a Muslim, and vice versa. So, just because somebody's wearing a turban. And why do groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center, which, by the way, got slammed down hard back a few years because they were manufacturing information to scare little old retired Jewish ladies in Florida into donating to them. They got slammed down hard, especially Morris Dees, who you haven't heard anymore about Morris Dees when it comes to publicly being in the limelight regarding the Southern Poverty Law Center. The Southern Poverty Law Center is a bankrupt, corrupt bunch, just like the FBI's counterterrorism domestic branch. Those people are fomenting this or making this stuff up or having it blown out of proportion just so they can feather their own nests. Let's not hear any more out of the Southern Poverty Law Center when they talk to them about these groups or these people that are doing these heinous acts, which are suspect in and of themselves. All right. You know, the national news in the last week or so has been grossly poor, pretty universally poor. There's basically two stories they're talking about. They're talking about the election campaign and how the Democrats are lying about the Republicans and vice versa. And just today, Romney has decided to take the offense against these lies that have been raised about him. And then Romney names his running mate over the weekend, who's not really any great shakes. This guy is one of the insiders. He's always been an insider. And who would you expect them to pick for Romney's running mate other than somebody who is an insider? Okay? But that's all it's been in the news over the last week. Romney and I share the same values, says Paul Ryan. Well, that's part of the problem. Republican values these days are war, torture, the police state, corporate welfare, fascism, and support for the welfare state, just like the Democrats. Paul Ryan is an insider, right out of the John Maynard Keynes School of Using Government for Insider Profit Gains. He sold stock in U.S. banks the same day he attended a confidential meeting where top-level officials disclosed that the sector was heading into a deep crisis. He sold the stock in troubled banks, including Wachovia and Citigroup. Then not long after the meeting, Wachovia's already troubled share price went into free fall and plunged 39% on the afternoon of September 26th. Citigroup's share price also fell soon after the meeting. While selling other bank stocks, Ryan bought shares that day in Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is the insider, folks. They didn't suffer the same slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Well, the Cato Institute has gone gaga over Paul Ryan. Quote, Ryan is going to be very attractive to the broad libertarian voter. He's obviously talked more than anybody else in Washington about getting control of the budget and spending. He's well educated in a free market libertarian point of view, said David Boaz, executive vice president of the Cato Institute, which is a right-wing think tank slash neocon bastion of considerable fascist tendencies. Yes, sir.
It's controlled by the Koch brothers.
Yeah, it's controlled.
Koch brothers, whatever they call them.
The Koch brothers control them, and though they've been getting flack from the left wing, so what? Go ahead, caller.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hey, FTO, what's going on?
Not a whole lot other than in the news.
Okay.
You must have been at Weeks Island.
Tom.
Yeah.
Okay, you got a little lag there.
Oh yeah, there's a delay.
Don't say that. This is Captain Kidd, man.
Hey there. How you doing? How you doing?
Hey, buddy.
Turn your TV down. And,
Great. Can you listen? Can you make a comment, please? I'm okay. Hang on a second. I'm really concerned about why all of our oil exploration and drilling in this area has been depleted and cut off. Can you comment on who is responsible? They keep talking about OPEC, and all this. Why aren't we getting our just rewards and developing our, exploration and development here in Louisiana? Can you please comment on who's responsible all the way to the top, if possible?
well,
Because, this is ridiculous.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You and I know this for like the last 40 years,
Yeah.
and we cannot seem to get a grip on our just rewards, and also, expanding, our businesses down here. Is it a corporation? Is it government? Could you please comment?
Okay. You want to hang on, or you want to listen off the air? You there?
Yes,
Okay.
cut me off.
You don't want to be on? Okay. Call back if you need to. All right. Well, it's very simple at this point. I'll give you the latest on this. Several weeks ago now, I got word and didn't get a chance to talk about it, but two heavy, deep water, big-time deep water rigs had just been permitted for the Gulf of Mexico for, I think it was 9,000 foot of water, which is deeper than what this BP rig that had the problems was. And the left-wingers and the government people were saying we didn't have the technology to drill safely in deep water like that. This is why all that happened. Well, they had just permitted, it was probably 2 months ago now, maybe a little bit less. Mike that gave me that information, if you want to call in, I know you're probably listening tonight, call back and give me the details on that. I didn't bring my notes. But this is just to give you a taste of what Kidd is talking about. Those two rigs are owned by the Brazilian oil company, okay? Petrobras, which is controlled by George Soros. George Soros is Obama's not mentor, all right, although Obama probably learned something from him. He's not his official mentor. This guy that's probably his real father is the one that he claims is his mentor. George Soros is his guardian angel, if you will. There's nothing angelic about Soros, but just his guardian demon, let's put it like that. Soros is the guy that's made sure Obama got where he is today. But the government permitted these two mega deep water rigs, these super deep water rigs, when they're dragging their feet on anybody else coming in. If you recall, after the BP disaster, they pulled all of the permits for the the deep water rigs and wouldn't allow any more deep water drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. And there were several rigs, U.S.-owned rigs, American companies had been trying to get permits to drill, and that's all, there's a moratorium on it. It's still in existence, all right? Oh, they've opened it up. There's a few here and there, but I'll tell you how they're doing this now. Every little thing that these companies want to do, they've got to get a permit for now. They've expanded this permit process. So if you want to know the main cause for drilling inactivity in this part of the world, the main culprit is, of course, the federal government under the Obama administration's environmental bunch, their Bureau of Land Management bunch, anybody, because they all have pieces of this thing. They all have control. They all have some aspect to, or some controlling aspect of this this drilling activity. So if you want a number one cause, it's them. Now, don't discount though, like you mentioned, is it the mega corporations? Well, yeah, of course it is. All right? It's also them, though not directly necessarily. I can't say for sure that the internationalists are beyond the ones that are controlling Obama, the Soros types, beyond them, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. Petrobras is an international company. Tom, what's the level that Petrobras is of major oil companies? Where are they on the scale? They number 3 or something? They're big.
Maybe a little bit, but within the top 5.
They're in the top 5 probably. So you do have that corporate influence, all right? But what is corporate and government together? Fascism, people. Why don't y'all understand this? Now, Obama is the most communistic of the presidents that we have had, and would probably be insulted if we called him a fascist. But just like the Chinese communists now, politically they're communists, but economically they're fascists. After all, the largest companies in China are partially owned by the People's Liberation Army, which is what they call their War Department. All right, the People's Liberation Army has their ground, air, and sea forces, plus other branches. So it's basically the equivalent of the Pentagon here. It's got that's the umbrella name for them. But they own stock in all of the big companies in China. Some of them, like Costco, they have a major interest. The outfit that has the Panama Canal under lease for who knows how long is partially owned by the PLA. The big shipping companies like Costco and the others out of China, they're partially owned by the PLA. And you'd have to do research to find out if there were other internal agencies of the Chinese government that had shares in these companies, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. So what's the difference? Well, here, the federal government doesn't necessarily control by owning stock, although they do own stock in these companies. Look at the GM situation. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, it's Captain Kidd again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, now to clarify that, could you please explain, if you know, what the connection these new LLCs have to do with, all these corporations that do transporting and all this stuff? Seems to me it's kind of like the old truckers union. Could you kind of comment on that if you know? And how are they involved in all this oil field business going on?
Well, I'm not sure what, I don't have much information about that other than that this big oil pipeline that was coming down from Canada down to here that got stopped by the Obama administration, some of his people are benefiting from, or people that support him are benefiting from this by virtue of their trucking interests. And it's not Soros this time. I was corrected on that a while back. It's, who's the other one? It's
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett.
With the railroad.
With the railroads. Okay, not the trucks. It was the railroads that Warren Buffett owns major interest in. We're going to benefit from hauling this oil and gas or whatever else was going to be hauled by the pipelines south from Canada into the U.S. What was that pipeline called? But see, there again, it wouldn't surprise me at all that there weren't some other people that were going to benefit from this that are political insiders. I don't know specifics about any trucking influences in this thing, but it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yes, but, they're mostly controlled by the limited liability companies. These things are, to me, are like the old unions, but I was just curious as how they have covered over all the independents that, are handling right now. I'm not just talking about the whole field. I'm talking about all international trucking is based in LLCs now, and they're taking over everything.
Well, you're breaking up real badly, but as I take it, you were interested to know what the influence that government might have in all trucking companies and all aspects of it. And of course, you've got a double whammy there. It's not just the government's influences; it's also the unions. And of course, the unions are tightly woven around the Demon Rat Party. So again, it gets back to an unholy alliance, in this case, between the unions, the companies, and the government. Because
right.
the government...
You understand that on the international border, say, for instance, Laredo, Texas, where they don't conform to the LLCs, all of our transport, across international lines are not controlled by an LLC, but they're what can I say? That's part of the deal is to be able to transport.
Well, part of this is due to NAFTA.
Also,
part of that is due to the North American Free Trade Agreement,
exactly.
where they greased the skids for these Mexican and other foreign trucking companies to come into the U.S. under less than official criteria. They were allowing these Mexican truckers to come in here with poorly maintained trucks without having the same level of training that an American trucker had, etc. That was under NAFTA that was
they're
done.
not DOT controlled or anything. I guarantee you, I've been there, I've seen it. They've crossed the borders. They bring freight in from, like you said, cheap labor or whatever, machine parts, all these things that are being built in Mexico and other areas. Also with Chinese investments and all this. Across the border with no DOT regulations whatsoever, and then our guys can transport this stuff all over the United States and even to Canada.
Yeah. See that highway that they wanted to build out of Mexico through Texas into Oklahoma north, that I think it was going to have a terminal in Missouri, and from Missouri it was going to spread east-west and then further north out of there. Exactly. What are they calling that thing? And they actually eminent domained a bunch of land in Texas, and we hadn't heard much about it lately. The Rick Perry, the Texas governor, had been fighting that, but I don't know if he kept fighting it or what the status is of that thing anymore. We hadn't heard anything about that lately, and that's what concerns me a little bit, because it wouldn't surprise me if they're going ahead, proceeding with it quietly behind the scenes and not making waves like they were before.
Exactly. Well, that's because the Texas government is also in control of, watching out for the migrant invasion.
Yeah. But see, what they were going to do with that thing, to avoid the labor costs on the U.S. West Coast, especially hauling Chinese goods from the coast inland all over the U.S., they were the terminal of this thing. This highway was going to curve to the west and go to several points on the Mexican Pacific coast. And there was where the Chinese goods were going to be flooding in instead of coming into Long Beach, which the Chinese have a lease on, but it's still costing them more than if they're using cheap Mexican labor down south of the border. And so the highway was going to be used as a means to further cheapen goods coming into this country and continue to erode at the cost of living of the people in this country. Now, see, years back we heard about what was being done here, and the overall plan, almost 40 years ago now, I first heard about it. Some others may have heard it before that. But the plan was to basically bring everybody's standard. It was a socialization, a socialist paradise that was going to be created worldwide. And the way they were going to do it was things like this superhighway and NAFTA and other things. And they've been partially successful because it brings the standard of living down for the countries where they're making some money, brings the standard of living up a little bit for the folks in the undeveloped parts of the world, okay? But the major reason was to bring the standard of living down for those folks like us that were making more than a few cents an hour, and to basically, again, level the playing field all over the world. And
yeah, Sam Wall was supposed to take care of all that.
Do what now?
I said Sam Wall was supposed to take care of all that for us.
Well, I don't think he was well, the way he did his business was different from what's happening now with them. That outfit now could be said to be doing this.
Bentonville, Arkansas is not that far from Joplin.
Yeah. No, Walmart and other big conglomerates or big international companies like that are the ones that would benefit from this kind of thing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Right.
But
based on credit, this country is, that's our downfall. That's the number one reason we're crashing is because of credit. We have no credit, and we realize that.
Yeah, the debt system, though, the financial debt system that we're saddled with has done more about that than anything else. All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, come to the meeting tomorrow night. You get a couple of tickets.
I'm gonna try to make it.
All righty.
All right, just 3 to 4.
Okay. Let's see. We're almost. How much we got? 2.5. 2.5. Well, Captain Kidd brought up some interesting stuff there about the overall situation. Now, with the economic forecast being for more of the same for the foreseeable future, and for the fact that the government in Washington and governments all over the country are failing to step up to the challenge of solving this economic crisis that we've got now, I don't think we're going to have to concern ourselves too much in the distant future. And it's going to be distant for a lot of this stuff before it comes into effect, like that superhighway going north out of Mexico. It's going to be a while before that thing is complete. Now, part of it is already finished. There's a piece of it between Mexico and Texas, into Texas, which Captain Kidd probably is aware of. There's already been trouble. Right after it opened up, there was a Mexican trucker that blew through a red light and killed a whole family of Texans. And there's even video of that one from a corner camera. So there's already been problems with this thing, and it's only a short stretch that's open right now. So once this thing is completed, then you could expect all kinds of stuff like that. It's similar to what we can expect here if that much ballyhooed I-49 extension, raised extension, is put through the middle of Lafayette down what's now the Evangeline Thruway. there's going to be some major problems there. But in the meantime, folks, come to the meeting tomorrow night and you find out some of the stuff you can do to basically get yourself ready for what's coming. So pray hard and pray often, and remember, faith without works is dead.